Hey guys, we're going to talk about 10.6 today, which is the new unit. We're still going to talk about circles, but we're going to talk about circumference and arc length today. So the first thing I want to do is just talk about how do you find circumference of a circle and what is circumference of a circle. So in case you do not remember, circumference is just like perimeter. So basically, what is the length around a circle? And there are two formulas for finding circumference. They're both on your formula sheet if you don't remember them. But just jot them down. You have circumference equals pi times diameter, or circumference equals 2 times pi times radius. So the reason why there's two different formulas, but they're really the same formula, is because when you multiply 2 times the radius, that gives you diameter. So you could also just say it's pi times diameter. So let's do some examples. Okay, example 1, we're going to find the indicated measures. So for part A, it says find the circumference in terms of pi. That just means no decimals. We're not going to actually multiply our answers with pi. So let's take a look at what we have. We have a circle. We're given that a segment that goes through the center is 16 inches. So this is actually the diameter. So since we have diameter, might as well just use the pi times diameter. And you would just do pi times 16. And typically we just see pi going after the number. So you would just say it is 16 pi inches. That's the answer in terms of pi. Okay, let's take a look at part B. So part B says find the radius in terms of pi. So it looks as though we are not given a lot of info here, but if you look at the bottom, we're given C equals 35 yards. So we're given the circumference, and we're trying to find the radius. So let's go ahead and use C equals 2 times pi times radius, since we're looking for the radius and we have the circumference. So we're going to plug in what we know. We know the circumference is 35. We're looking for R. So you can think of this as one group, 2 pi. We're just trying to get R by itself. So if I want to get R by itself, all of these are being multiplied together. I could just divide this entire side by 2 pi. Do the same thing over here. Divide by 2 pi. And all we're going to do is just simplify. So you can say this is 35 over 2 pi. And I would actually leave it like that because 35 over 2 simplifies into a decimal. So just leave it as 35 over 2 pi. That's the radius. Okay, part C. Find the circumference in terms of pi. So if you take a look at your circle, we're given half a segment that starts at the center, goes to the edge. It's 4.5 centimeters. This is definitely the radius. So since we've been given the radius, let's go ahead and use C equals 2 times pi times radius. So we're going to plug in 4.5 for our radius. And we're just going to multiply 2 times 4.5, which is 9. Put the pi afterwards, and since we're given centimeters, we'll just write our units down. Okay, that's it for circumference. So now we're going to talk about arc length. So arc length is, if I were to draw a central angle, I have a minor arc, I have a major arc. Let's say I want to find the length of this piece here. So not the degree. So this is important. Not degree. of the arc. We're looking for length. So basically our units are going to be centimeters, inches, yards, you know, whatever length units have been given in the problem. So how you figure it out is you need to know the entire circumference of the circle, and then you need to know what fraction or what piece is this arc taking up of the circumference, and that'll give you your length. So arc length, I'm just going to abbreviate it, AL, equals fraction of a circle's circumference. But I'm going to give you guys an actual formula that you need to remember. If you have a highlighter, you know, you get that out, or maybe just write it in a different colored pen. So in order to figure it out, I'm going to say it's AL equals and we need to know the fraction of the circumference. So in order to figure out the fraction, you are going to take the arc measure and you're going to divide it by 360. That's the fraction part, and then you're going to multiply it by the circumference of the circle. So you can either say 2 times pi times radius if you've been given the radius, or to find arc length, you can do arc measure divided by 360, and then use the other circumference formula, which is just pi times diameter. So I'm going to get my highlighter out. I'm just going to highlight both of these. You can stick with one, you can stick with both of them, depending on whatever info I give you, it does not matter. All right, so let's actually do some examples so it makes a little bit more sense. So if you take a look at example 1, it says, what is the length? So again, looking for length of arc BA. And we're going to leave our answers in terms of pi. So we're trying to figure out the length of this arc. Notice how our units are in meters. So we're trying to figure out, you know, how many meters long is this arc. So I'm going to use my formula, arc length equals, and it's arc measure over 360 times circumference. Now, if you notice, you've been given the radius is 5 meters. I'll just jot that down here. So for my circumference formula, I'm going to use the one with radius, 2 times pi times r. Okay, so let's plug in what we know. I don't know arc length, that's what I'm looking for. But what is the measure of the arc? Well, if my central angle is 150, the measure of the arc will be 150. So it's always going to be the same as the central angle. So you can just say it's 150 over 360. That's my fraction. And now I'm going to multiply it with 2 times pi times 5, because that's the radius, in order to get the circumference. Okay, so let's simplify this. So 150 divided by 360 can be simplified to 5 over 12. And I'm going to multiply that with 2 times pi times 5. I'm going to multiply the 2 and the 5, which is just 10 pi. And then I just got to combine these two things together. Here's my fraction, here's my circumference. I'm multiplying them together. Just stick this over 1 and go straight across. So my arc length is going to be 5 times 10, excuse me, which is 50 pi over 12 times 1 is 12. And then again, if you can simplify 50 over 12, you know, think about what you could take out of it. Okay, I could take a 2 out of it. I could also No, that's actually all I can take. It's just a 2. So when I take a 2 out, I'm left with 25 pi over 6. And that is my arc length. And it is in meters, because that was the units that we were given. Okay, let's take a look at example 2. So same idea. What is the length of arc BA? So if you would like to pause the video, try this on your own, or just follow along. We'll do it together. All right, so I'm trying to find the length of this arc. Notice how my unit's in meters. So again, I'm just trying to figure out how many meters long, is this arc. I've been given radius. So I'm going to use my arc length formula. Arc length equals arc measure over 360. I'm going to times that by the circumference. So since I've been given radius, I'll just use the 2 times pi times radius formula. And I'm just plugging everything in. Okay, arc length equals my arc measure. Well, my central angle is 88, so the arc measure is going to be 88 over 360. I'm going to times that by 2 pi and a 2. Okay, I like to reduce 88 over 360. So just think about what you could divide out of it. I could divide a 2. I could divide a 4. You could actually divide an 8 out of these. When you divide an 8, you're going to end up getting 11 over 45. I'm going to multiply that with my 2 pi times 2. So it's really just 4 pi. And then again, just put this over 1, go straight across. 11 times 4 is 44 pi. And then 45 times 1 is just 45. And there's really nothing I can take out of 44 and 45. And my units are in meters. So that's my arc length. 44 pi over 45 meters. All right, we're just going to do a bunch of these examples. So let's take a look at example 3. Again, what is the arc length of arc BA? Again, units are in meters. I'm just trying to figure out how many meters long is this thing. All right, again, I've been given radius is 6. So you'll kind of get in the habit of memorizing this formula the more you do it. I'm just going to keep writing it out in case you need it. Since I've been given radius, I'm going to use 2 pi r as my circumference formula. Okay, we need to figure out the measure of this arc. Well, you'll notice I've been given the measure of, or the central, not the central angle, the major angle around the central angle. So if the angle around the central angle is 320, how can I figure out the measure of the central angle? Do 360 minus 320. So this angle is 40, which means my arc will be 40. So we'll have 40 over 360 times it by 2 pi, my radius is 6. Okay, 40 over 360. You can actually take out 40 from both of those. So that would end up giving you 1 over 9. Times it by 2 and 6, which is 12 pi. Put this over 1, go straight across. So this is 12 pi over 9. Can we leave it like this? Technically, we're going to simplify this. I can take out a 3. So when you take out a 3, you get 4 pi over 3. And we are in meters. Okay, let's do another one. Example 4, what is the length of arc BC? Again, we're using, this time we're using centimeters, okay? So we're trying to figure out how many centimeters long is this. All right, but this time we have been given a diameter is 34 centimeters. So when I'm doing my arc length, I'm going to do a different circumference formula. I'll do the pi times diameter one. All right, so we're trying to find arc measure of BC. So in order to figure that out, I need to know this angle that goes with arc BC. So notice how I have a diameter, and I know one side of it is 150. So how do I find the angle next to it? Subtract from 180. So this angle is 30. So the arc of measure of BC will be 30. Put that over 360. And now I'm going to times it by pi, and my diameter is 34. Okay, so 30 over 360 can be simplified. You could take out, 30. So if you take out a 30, it'll just reduce down to 1 over 12. And we're just going to multiply this with pi 34. Put this over 1, just go straight across. So you end up getting 34 pi over 12. And since they're both even numbers, you can definitely take out, you can simplify this fraction. So I can take out a 2. I think that's all I can take out. So, but yeah, because if I take out a 2, I'm left with 17 pi over 6. And our units were in centimeters, so that is the arc length. Okay, let's look at example 5. So this time we're finding the measure of arc AB. So anytime you see a little m, that means what is the degree? So that must mean we've been given length. And if you look at arc AB here, we have been given the length because it has the meters next to it. So we're still going to use the formula. We're just going to work it backwards. And again, I've been given the radius. The radius is 9 meters. So I'm going to use arc length equals arc measure over 360. And I'll use the 2 pi r circumference formula. And we're going to plug in what we know. This time we know arc length is 18.84. I don't know the arc measure. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to call that x over 360. Okay, and then this is 2 times pi times my radius, which is 9. All right, so let's just do what we can. I'm going to leave this 18.84 over here. This is just x over 360. I can multiply my 2 times 9, which is 18 pi. I can still put this over 1, go straight across. But I have 18.84 on the left equals 18 pi x over 360. So now I have a fraction on the right, 18.84 on the left. I can stick this over 1 because how do you think I can now solve for x? We can cross multiply. So we're just going to end up cross multiplying. Let me get rid of this shade here so I can extend my page a little bit. All right, so when you cross multiply, 1 times 18 pi x is just 18 pi x. And then we'll do 18.84 times 360, which is 6782.4. And this is kind of what we did earlier in our notes. You can think of 18 pi as one group. So and it's being multiplied to x. If I just want to get x by itself, I'm going to divide it by 18 pi. So you could leave your answer as x equals 6,782.4 divided by 18 pi, or you can actually put it into your calculator and divide it all. Since it doesn't specify for us to leave it in terms of pi, I would just divide it. You end up actually getting 120. When you're dividing in your calculator, type in 6,782.4 divided, and then put 18 pi in parentheses because that's like one group. You will end up getting a nice whole number, 120. Okay, almost done. Let's take a look at example 6 here. So we're going to find the radius of circle N. So let's see what we've been given. Okay, we've been given this feet for arc ML. So is this arc measure or is this arc length? This is the length of arc ML. We're also given the central angle, which will be the arc measure. We're looking for the radius. I'm just going to call it x. We don't know it. So we're still going to use arc length equals arc measure over 360. Since we're looking for radius, let's go ahead and use the 2 pi r and plug in what we know. We know the length is 1.57. I now know my measure. It's 45 over 360. I just don't know r. I'm just going to rewrite it. Okay, we're going to do exactly what we did before. Let's just simplify 45 over 360. You could actually take out a 5. You could take out a 9. You could take out 45. So this simplifies down to 1 over 8. And then I'm just going to put the 2 pi r over 1. I'm going to go straight across just to combine it into one fraction. So 1.57 will equal 2 pi r over 8. And now we're basically in the same scenario as we were in example 5. I just want to solve for r. Or I guess you could call it x. So I'm going to stick 1.57 over 1, and I'm just going to cross multiply. Same thing as before. All right, so 1 times 2 pi r is just 2 pi r. 8 times 1.57 will give you 12.56. And then you can just think of the 2 pi as a group being multiplied to the r. So let's divide both sides by 2 pi. And I would just put this all into your calculator. So just type in 12.56 divided by, and then put 2 pi in parentheses, and you're going to get 2. So there's the radius. All right, last one. So now we are going to find the circumference of circle Q. So let's take a look at what we've been given. We have an arc with centimeters. So again, is that the arc measure or is that the arc length? That is length. Now, we've also been given the central angle that goes with that arc. It's 200. So we know the what do you call it? The arc measure. We're looking for the circumference. So let's write out the formula. Arc length equals arc measure over 360. And I'm just going to put a big old C here. That's what we're looking for. I'm not necessarily looking for the radius. I'm not necessarily looking for the diameter. I'm just looking for the circumference. So I'm not even going to write the circumference formula out. So let's plug in everything we know. We know the arc length is 41.87. I know the arc measure is 200. That's over 360. I'm just going to times all this by C. So what I like to do is simplify 200 over 360. That would reduce down to 5 over 9 times C. I'm going to put this over 1, just go straight across here just to group those together. So you're going to get 5C over 9. And then it's just like the last two problems. I got a number equal a fraction on the right. So I'm going to stick this over 1. And we can just cross multiply. Okay, 1 times 5C is 5C. And then 41.87 times 9 gives you 376.83. Just divide that by 5. And you're going to get 75.366. And we were using, I think it was meters. Let me double check here. Centimeters. So technically you'd want centimeters here. And that's it. It doesn't tell us how to round, so you can just leave it like that. Okay, guys, so that's everything. That's circumference and arc length. Let me know if you have questions, and we will review this tomorrow. Have a great day.